Game On magazine is chatting to Maryke Kennard, an esport gamer. Let's start off with, how did you get involved in esport?
Well, I used to be a pretty big sport jock in school, and then I had a little bit of a netball accident, and I was on crutches for about 3 years on and off. So in that time, I just decided to start playing with my brother. I always played games, but seriously, play with my brother and his friends, and then I just didn't stop. And I wanted to be the best, so I just kept playing.
A big thing with most sports is that it's a male-dominated sphere. There's no doubt about it. How, as a woman, do you cope in a male-dominated sphere, such as esport?
Well, I guess it's esport has female leagues, but they're not well known. Nobody's going to go watch them because you don't get the same quality of play. I think that comes into sport as well. You have male and female leagues for a reason. And I'm not saying females are worse, but you do get that, like men do have the physical advantage. Even in esports, we can see men are slightly better than girls overall. You don't get a lot of good female players, and I could attribute to the numbers of active female gamers, but I'm sure there's a reason why they also split the female and male leagues. So being a girl in gaming, because I've been doing it since I was like 6 or 7 years old, it's normal. It's normal. I play with the guys, I compete with the guys. I always play on a male level. I despise playing with female players sometimes because of how different it is. And it's not necessarily bad, it's just different. And I do understand why people find male sport more entertaining.
Definitely. Maryke, let's move on to what sort of training goes into being a competitive esport gamer?
Well, the most fun you can think of, playing games. No, there's, on our national level, people usually play a lot. I wouldn't say most of us are on professional level, with like people in Europe and America that are and Korea competing competitively at every single competition they can find. But we're slowly getting there. So for us, I would play about 4 hours a day. But some people that do it as a full-time career in Korea, up to 12, 14 hours a day of practice. So it takes a lot if you want to make it your life. But if you just do it as a sport like we are now, it's hard, but you can do it with less effort.
With the scientific research out there, there's no denying the fact that it's not healthy to sit in front of a computer screen day in and day out. How do you balance your life?
Well, I think a Pokemon Go has helped a lot with that recently because it's another game we can play and it forces you to walk. And I think I've walked over 400 kilometers by now. And for someone with 6 knee surgeries, that's a lot of walking. So I think most gamers get exhausted from playing because it's very mentally exhausting. So you just get up, go outside and like look what's going on. But a lot of people don't exercise while they play esports, and that is a big health issue. But you'll see the top gamers have a balanced diet, exercise program, and they play games constantly. So I think the successful ones will just have a balance, and others that don't, they'll fall a bit lower than those that do.
On Carte Blanche recently, there was an insert about esports, and Carte Blanche was at Rage, where there was quite a huge pool, prize money for the guys who won the Telkom Rage in Johannesburg. So esports in South Africa is definitely growing. What else do you think needs to change in order for you guys to be able to compete at the highest level internationally?
I think our exposure to international tournaments, the thing is South Africa has, for the 2 games that got that huge amount of prize pool, Dota and CSGO, you have local servers. But the problem with local servers are that you only play against South Africans. So you don't get the exposure of playing against the best people in the world. And to get better, you need to play against the better people. So for us to improve, I really think we need to go out of South Africa a bit more and play internationally, because if we play internationally, we will improve. That's why we're taking these opportunities to go overseas with our national federation. It's great. It's amazing to learn from these people.
Are you part of Team South Africa who does compete internationally? Talk us through that experience. You have competed regularly overseas. what stands out for you, having competed so many times overseas, and where does South African esport gamers, where do they rank if you compare them to the rest of the world?
Well, at the last championship, we placed 14th out of 31 countries, which is not bad. If you consider that, I think Switzerland was also tied with us in 14th place. So European countries also are not like, they're not so far ahead, but you do get, some countries do have that slight edge because of the exposure, because of the constant tournaments and every single event they can find. But yeah, what was amazing, I've been to South Korea last year with the team where we placed 12th, I think. And this year went down to 14, but it wasn't that big of a difference. But the main thing I enjoyed was how they set up the tournaments. The tournaments were so professionally done. You would go there and you would just be like, wow, is this really fast? So you would go with like average expectations, and when you get there you learn how they set these things up, how the commentating works. I was a shoutcaster myself because one of the famous casters got sick, so once we fell out of our group, I jumped right into it, and that was also an amazing learning curve because that teaches you about the game as well. And I think that's also something South Africa needs a bit more. Shoutcasting teaches you so much, but in Indonesia as well this year, the skill level is just like, it's up there. Like I want to put my hand outside the camera. It's just crazy. And playing against those people, it's a once in a lifetime experience if you don't do it regularly. It's just, it's hard to describe it to people. I'm thinking regular sports, you get that all the time, where you have to go to an international event and play against the best, because South Africa can sometimes match up to the best. So for us little guys that are still growing, it's an amazing experience. It's great to play against players of that quality.
Now, Maryke, just to sidetrack for a moment, for our viewers who are not well versed in esport, what is shoutcasting?
Okay, so I'm guessing most Africans here watch rugby. And there's always that commentator that tells you how he got that ball. Now that's exactly what we do in esports as well. You have your usually 2 or 3 casters sitting next to each other, and as the game goes, you just tell people what's going on, what's happening, and when a fight happens between the characters, you are amped and you make it sound so interesting. It is really interesting, but like any sport, commentators, I guess, is the right word.
Okay. Maryke, let's move on to your aspirations. Where do you want to go with esport? Is this something you want to do competitively one day, or is it just something you do for fun?
Well, I'm actually moving out of the prime age. I'm 22 right now, and I think your esports career, like any sport career yet again, stops around your mid-20s to late 20s. So I would like to grab the opportunity. I'm moving into different games currently, so I can compete. I'm gonna try do it on a female level because I realize I'm not going to say I'm at a disadvantage, but I do want to compete with my peers, and one day, maybe if I'm good enough, I can compete in those games with the guys. But for now, I'm looking at self-improvement. I'm looking at maybe moving to Europe so I can play on lower ping, get more exposure, and while I'm doing my degree, of course, this is not going to be the main goal. I want to do medicine eventually, so goal 1, medicine, and on the sidelines, definitely try to make it in esports.
Definitely. Let's talk a little bit as we end off, not just for the next generation of esport gamers, but their parents as well, because there's always this, it's almost like a taboo with parents. When you go to them and say, I want to compete professionally as an esport gamer, they look at you like you're crazy. So if you had a special message, not only for the next generation of esport gamers, but their parents as well, about the importance of esports, what would you say to them?
Well, it's important for the mind. Mental development is crazy when you're in esports. I could speak English fluently at the age of 6 as a very, very Afrikaans child, and I'm slowly learning other languages as well. It's the cognitive abilities just develop so much faster when you play computer games. So I know there's a bad stigma to it, but let your kids play. Let them play, let them make friends online. It seems like people are unsocial online and you're going to get creeps, but it's like that everywhere. You can't limit people. I think it's a great world, and you need to let your kids and your future grandkids experience this. It's a great community, and you can learn so much.
I think that's so important. I think in a world where we are so connected, it is definitely a great idea to expand and to. South Africans, unfortunately, because our rand are not that strong, a lot of us cannot travel, and using the internet allows us to travel in inverted commas. Uh,
Yeah.
if you had anything to say about safety online, because I think that's very critical for the younger generations, because a lot of people get sucked into this web of lies, if I can put it that way. What would you say about safety for the next generation of esport gamers?
I don't just think it's children that get sucked in. As we all know, our older generation gets pulled into scams all the time. The amount of times I hear my grandfather say he's won an iPad. So I think they'll have a slight edge because their parents are going to be our generation, who are educated, that learn from their mistakes. All you have to do to be safe is learn what are the dangers. You don't meet someone randomly in a cafe that you met online 2 days ago. You make sure you get to know them. And you know not to click on random links and believe everything you read online, but it's something that comes with time. So I think when you're little, have parents supervise. Like make sure the parent like sees, hey, my kid is not doing anything fishy. And once they grow older, they'll have the intelligence and knowledge to just do it themselves, and they'll be safe.
Gamer Magazine would like to take this opportunity to thank you so much, Maryke, for joining us and talking us through your love of esports, and we wish you all the best with your future endeavors.
Thank you, Dan.